Hello everyone and welcome to the series of lectures on project management. Your faculty today is Dr. Suchitra Srivastava, Professor in the Department of Management in the SAGE group of institutions. Today we will be talking about the floats of activities in a network. So let us begin by understanding what is float or slack. Now, float and slack both refer to the amount of time by which a particular activity or event can be delayed without affecting the time schedule of the network. Now, we can understand that the float basically implies fluid, now which in turn implies the flexibility. Hence, in project scheduling, float refers to the amount of flexibility in terms of time in scheduling a given activity. So it is basically the scheduling flexibility. So in project management, float is the extra time that can be used to extend a project activity without disrupting the rest of the project schedule. So in case an activity has a float, then one can spend extra time that is allocated for the given activity. Now please understand, a critical activity will have zero float. So in case of a critical activity, there is no flexibility in the time allocated. Now, for example, if a task is scheduled to take 7 days, that is, if it is completion time is 7 days and it has a float of 4 days, then one can spend about 7 days on that activities or even 11 days in doing the task without affecting the project schedule in an adverse way. Now, there are three types of float: total float, free float, and independent float. Let us now understand each of the three one by one. So, we begin with the total float. According to project management body of knowledge, it is the amount of time that a scheduled activity can be delayed or extended from its early start date without delaying the project finish date or violating a schedule constraint. So in simple terms, we can say that the total float is equal to the latest start time minus the early start time or the latest finish time and the earliest finish time of an activity. Now, let us understand what is the free float. It is the amount of time that a scheduled activity can be delayed without delaying the early start of any of its successor activities or violating a schedule constraint. So please understand, when we are talking about the free float, our focus is on the successor activities. So free float is about the flexibility at the activity level. It is about the flexibility that an activity has in its execution without delaying the successor activities. Please understand, here the focus is on the successor activities. Let us now understand how it is computed. It is calculated by subtracting the early finish date of the current activity from the early start date of its successor activities. Now, when we talk about this, we are talking about the early start of successor minus early finish of the current activity. Now, independent float. Independent float is the maximum amount of time an activity can be delayed without delaying the early start of the succeeding activities and without being affected by the allowable delay of any of the predecessor activities. Please understand over here, when we talk about the independent float, we are talking about the successor activities also, and we are taking into account the predecessor activities as well. So how do we compute it? It is the earliest successor's early start time minus the earliest predecessor's late finish time, right? So when is the latest time that the predecessors finish, right? Minus the activity's duration. Now, a simple way to compute it is total float minus the head event slack minus the tail event slack. Or simply we can say that it is the free float minus the tail event slack. Now, one thing one must note, that is, if the independent float is negative, we set the value as 0. Now, these are some of the references that have been used to prepare the slides. Thank you, students, for your attention and time.